Hello, everybody. I would like to introduce you all to Elton. Elton, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Elton, you got it right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Hello, everybody. My pleasure to be here, and thank you for setting up this interview, man. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah. So,
Of this
some
community.
backstory. I do consultations, right? And one of my consultations recently, he came to Nicaragua, and then when I met up with him at a coffee shop and chatted for a bit, and he was telling me about the YouTube channels that he'd been watching, because he like looks at like smaller channels that are more active, basically. And he talked about your YouTube channel, and so that's how
Wow.
I learned about your existence. If you could introduce yourself, just kind of first start off with what your channel is, your YouTube channel, because then that's where they can go to learn more about what you're doing. And then I'll kind of ask some more questions after that. Okay.
All right, cool, man. Well, my name is Elton, and I've been living in Nicaragua now for 8 months. I permanently moved out here from the Bay Area, California, and I'm running a YouTube channel called Immense Logic, which I'm gonna change the name now pretty soon to Immense Coffee, though, because I'm focused.
Yeah. More
I'm
relevant.
focusing, yeah, I'm focusing more on the coffee scene over here in Nicaragua. So my goal is that I'm working on rebuilding my family's coffee farm in Nicaragua. So I went from having a corporate job in the Bay Area, just like typical 9 to 5, like burnout stuff, and like now switching to a different country and working out in the farm, trying to build this farm out, right? So my YouTube channel focuses on shedding light on what it takes to produce coffee, because there's this large gap between the consumer, which is like the person buying the cup of coffee and drinking
Yeah.
it, to like the person picking the cherry. Out of the whole supply chain, the farmer is the one that gets pretty much screwed at the end with the least amount of profit.
Yeah, they
But
do
they
they do
don't.
all the work. Like
Yeah, they do
really,
all the work.
it takes so long to get the stuff, and then you just cook it and bag it. Like that's easier than all the work of finding the land, having access to it, taking care of the plants, doing all that. It's like
Yeah, exactly. So so I saw that gap, and I'm like, wow. So I need to go back. If I'm gonna be in Nicaragua, like I need to use this like nowadays, like YouTube and everything, to shed a light on that. So that's what my YouTube channel is focused on, that. And also it's focused on just Nicaragua in general, traveling Nicaragua, getting going sightseeing, checking out some of the natural resources it has, because it has some beautiful places.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and a lot of people don't visit like majority of it, because they do just like the most tourist things. But if you venture off to up north or like to the Caribbean side, you'll see definitely like incredible things out there. So yeah, I've been on YouTube working on that, and at the same time working on my farm there.
That's cool. So I'm sharing my screen. Well, I'm recording my screen, so
Yeah.
I'll go off of our call real. Aha! Ah, yeah, immense. That's right.
It's with
I
an E,
spelled
yes.
it with an I. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you looking at the video, you can see this is his YouTube channel. Just so you know how to access it.
Yeah, so that, I think my last video was like us planting. I think we planted over an acre of coffee. It was my first time doing that, and I stepped into the farming scene, and I'm like, whoa, this is gonna be tough. It's like
Yeah.
I have a lot to learn. But thankfully, I met a good group of guys in Nicaragua. These are all young farmers who all each own a farm of specialty coffee, and they've been nothing but good to me. Just like sharing information and just helping me out. I mean, that's what I've kind of seen from the people there. They're like willing to help you.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That matches the scene I've met, at least when you go to Nicaragua, but not in the main touristy areas, because the main touristy areas, it's harder to break through the wall and actually interact
yeah,
with locals. Whereas
that's a good
if you
thing.
stay
Yeah.
away from them, then you're gonna like realize that Nicaraguan people are just like all other people. There's plenty of variety here. There's people you'll hate, people you'll love, all sorts of people. But if you just stay in the touristy areas, it's really hard to get through that, just because the way they are. I don't really know how to explain it too much, but personally, I found that people are more genuine and more willing to talk to you and try and help you if they can, or like for example, when I went to Ometepe, really rural area,
Yeah.
considering, right? There was this bee farmer, and I really like bees, and I paid him like 500 Cordoba or something, like $15, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he like spent like half the day just showing me his bee farm and showed me where they go to collect the honey, and I got to like touch the bees and stuff. And
yeah, and I think to your point that you mentioned, that you have to kind of get away a little bit from the tourist spots too, like to kind of interact with that layer of Nicaragua where it's like, I like to call it the rawness, like the actual people, like they are living their day to day. They're like willing to help you out, So that's kind of what I've experienced there with the whole farming scene. So these people have been great to me there.
That's awesome. So I'm curious about. So I'm assuming you lived in the U.S. before, and have you visited Nicaragua? What was your experience like? Because now you moved here, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You moved here, and you're like trying to live here, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I was born in California. So majority of my life I lived in California, and so this Bay Area was my home, right? But my parents are from Nicaragua.
Okay. Gotcha.
So they were born in Nicaragua, but they migrated in the 90s. So majority they're like they lived here. Yeah, during the war, right? So a lot of people migrated, and so we had our life in the Bay Area. So I graduated high school. I started the work industry. I picked up a corporate job, and I worked very hard from like I'd say like the age of 20 to like. So I'm 32 right now, 31. So the age of 20 to 30, like I worked a corporate job like 12 to 13 hours. Like I got burnt out within like the 10 years. And so I kind of asked myself, okay, so I'm like, I see my path down this line here, a corporate job, and it's not fulfilling, and I kind of got scared of looking at my life just like following this path and this trend of like going to work, sitting in traffic, working, going back, just living for the weekends, so that's kind of when I decided to like just sell everything and just do something completely different, and then move back to Nicaragua, where I would start again in my roots, like reconnect to my roots. And it was still a big shift because I was majority of my life in California. So I had to get used.
California in particular, like the U.S. alone is pretty different than Nicaragua. But there's plenty of like really impoverished places in the U.S. Like I lived in Wheeling, West Virginia, and it's a messy place. Like definitely, it's comparable to how things are here. But California is like. You see all the tall buildings and the wealth and all that stuff. So the difference there between how things are in Nicaragua and California in particular is quite extreme. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's two different worlds, man. And I mean, the way I did it, like after I quit my job, I'm like, okay, I need a break, right? I need to disconnect. So I decided to cycle from California to Nicaragua. So I got on a bicycle, opened my front door, like after I sold everything here in the Bay Area, like over there in the Bay Area, and I got on the bike and I crossed all of California to the border, and then I cycled all through Mexico and then Guatemala, Honduras, until I ride back to Nicaragua. So that was a 5-month like stretch over 3,500 miles on a bike.
A lot of people wouldn't be brave enough to do that. So that's great proof right there that you were even able to, When I told people I was going to come here, they had a couple things to say. One was that there's going to be a lot of inflation and that there's going to be lots of, problems with disease and violence in these things. And then now I'm like, wait a second. These issues are more problems in the U.S. now. So did they just curse themselves? It's like
no, I feel you. I mean, people thought that. I mean, honestly, I got like backlash for moving to Nicaragua because I feel that what they see is on the news, like it's dangerous, like. But living here, like it's not like that, So you come to experience that and realize it, quickly after being here,
But I have a theory, at least, that you almost need to have been in the material land and lost and like not want it to be able to be here. At least because I've met a lot of Nicaraguans who totally disagree with how I feel about their country. Like they do not feel like they are lucky to live in Nicaragua. And I'm always like, look, I get that you don't earn money online, but you can. You can find a $5 an hour job, and they literally don't believe me. They think that's too much money. They don't think it's possible. It's like it's so people have mental things that stop them from taking advantage of it. because they keep
Mhm.
trying to find physical work here. And of course,
Yeah.
if you're finding physical work here, you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard to find good pay where you're treated well.
Yeah.
But if you're working online, I mean, it's absurd how much opportunity there is for people here. A lot of people just can't, their heads aren't in the right place, you know, and a lot of people from the US, they need to get to the point where they get all the things they're supposed to do. You know, like you're saying, you worked all the time and had the opportunity to get burned out and question your life. You know,
Yeah.
some people just idolize that and never really get to that point, and then they get to that point, kind of regret their life and die. So
Yeah. That's
tragic.
that's that's the tough one, you know, and that's why I wanted to act on it, you know, like making that move. It was just like it was hard at first, you know, like that transition. But to your point, you kind of have to forget about your material things, and really what's important is doing something or being somewhere that you feel fulfilled, you know.
Yeah. How you feel about it?
Yeah, how you feel about that. So so far it's been good, man. I think the moves definitely shifted my perspective and time, and I'm working in stuff that I like and makes me feel fulfilled, you know, which is definitely important.
I don't know how it is for you, but for me, if I'm working on anything that does anything, even if it's minor to my future or someone I care about's future, I'm not actually that picky about feeling fulfilled. I'll feel fulfilled planting something that I might be able to look at that's pretty in the future. But the problem with work is you end up kind of getting tricked into thinking you're doing this for your benefit. But really, you're just making other people wealthy, and they're never going to be like, oh, you've done enough now. Here you go. Here's what you deserve. A time to work on your own life. You know, that never happens. You just...
There's no balance. Yeah, that's it. You always work, and there's no like, what about your life? You know, like we have to stop prioritizing work, you know, and prioritize our life. You know.
Yeah.
I think I read a quote that said like, the day you die, your job's gonna replace you within a week. You know, and
Yeah.
and you spend your whole life working there for them. You know, so don't take it too seriously, right?
So you mentioned some differences, right? That you were used to your life in California and working more, and then obviously totally different being in Nicaragua. But are there any in particular that you want to kind of bring to light or talk about?
Yeah, like would you maybe say like some of the cons, or are you talking about like some of the pros then in that question?
For example, okay, for me, I live in Managua, right? And I
Yeah.
always will see people who don't have much material,
Yeah, a lot of poverty.
right? So
Yeah.
I used to think I used to suffer because I thought they were suffering. Because I believe, like, it's not that they don't suffer, but I see now that the Westerner I was, sees a lot more suffering than there is. We have this association that a lack of means a shit life, a horrible life, an abusive life. But for me now, I still see the same things, but I don't see it that way. I've had a change of heart, for example. But I see how other people, like I have friends who are constantly bothered. They don't want to see it. They really just don't want to see it. Whereas for me, I even when I'm in the US, I know it's there. I know it's beneath the latte. I know it's the hidden things behind everything we consume. So
Yeah.
I'm never detached from it. And I'd rather see it face to face, you know, because then I don't forget and I feel like more impacted by the world and more connected to it. That's just one example of, like, I know people who, if they can't get comfortable being around people who really have very little or almost nothing, then it's going to be an issue being here, you know? Whereas in my situation, I've learned how that is more comfortable for me. I'm less comfortable around people who aren't like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think arriving to Nicaragua, you see it off the bat. I think like you'll notice it, you know, and it's something that like you'll begin to understand with time in Nicaragua, you know. A lot of these people do have the option to go push harder and try to find other opportunities, though. Like they could go online and stuff like that, like you mentioned, and look for opportunities there. But that's one of the things I would say you'd have to kind of work through in Nicaragua, seeing those scales. But the way I think about it too is that okay, there is that underlining thing in Nicaragua where you see that, but how I'm in the point of view where like how can I help? Like if I have this farm or community I'm building, like how many jobs can I give to people like who are willing to come and work, right? If you're willing to work hard, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. But like if you look at, for example, in the U.S., there's tons of homeless people that would also ask for money or help, right? You do see that in Nicaragua too, so it's just more visible over there, so it's something to be aware of when you go. But other than that, other things like, for example, living in Nicaragua, in my opinion, is like a different pace of time though. Like I noticed in the US, everybody was like rush to get things done, like it has to be done ASAP, like do it right now, like, oh, tomorrow, 24-hour turnaround time, but you get to Nicaragua and it's not like that.
Yeah, it is not like that. Yeah,
I arrived there and I was in US mode, like, okay, we're gonna get this done tomorrow, but people are just like in a different time. They're not as stressed to get it done, right? And you kind of have to adjust yourself to this is like Nika time. Yeah, no, that's true, man. And that's one of the things I think it took me the longest to get used to it. But once I did, it's just a different way of working. You just learn how to work with it, and it's less pressure, less stress, in my opinion.
Yeah,
there.
That's what's so weird for me, because so by Nicaraguan standards, I'm like wealthy enough to provide, right?
Yeah.
In my actual experience in my life, I'm one of the poorest people I know. I'm like, everyone in my family I know feels like, what are you doing? You don't go to college. You're living off like $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. That's poverty, literally. So like the way I'm treated in one country compared to another country is just so different. It's just weird. Like, I don't even get that judged here in Nicaragua. Like, I'm a foreigner and sometimes people judge me and stuff, but it like really doesn't matter. Whereas in the US, it was a constant part of my life. People would break up with me because I wasn't the right religion. I didn't have a car, whatever. I couldn't get a promotion at work because I didn't have the right availability with my car. And then I get a car and then they're like, oh, actually, we pay you too much to let you use the car. So, it's all just this fucking trap, and there's so much making money off of you and shit. And here it's like you have some peace of mind to figure out what you want to do before you die,
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
And one of the beauties of it, I mean, it's the cost of living, it allows you to kind of just not stress too much because the cost of living is so much less. So you can focus on other things, right?
People listening to this, I remember listening, I heard this kind of stuff, I knew about it logically, but you really don't get it until you witness it, until you really see, like, wow, I am expending 3 families just by where I am. It's not a lie that you can just fuck off and go live in Latin America and have a great life and even make a family off of just part-time income from, you don't even need like a corporate job or education. Like, you really don't.
Yeah.
And
no, you don't.
The fact that that's true is it's very hard for people to really get, because deep down they don't want to admit that, because that means that whatever suffering you're going through, all the things that you've done, you could have made a life where you go somewhere and have most of your time.
I mean, like you and I took the risk, right? And we're young and we're still working through making income and everything, and the reason we're able to do it is because it's possible in Nicaragua because of the cost.
That's what I want people to understand, is that for an opportunity to present itself to you, I used to think it's like that Eminem song, like you got to take that chance, right? Cool. That's not really how life works. You have to be living in a way where you're attracting opportunities.
Yep.
Like in my case, I shared with you earlier how I started to live in Nicaragua, right? I joined an event, basically. I took that chance, right? But the reality is, if I wasn't in the habit of making YouTube videos, that chance wouldn't even exist. Does it really make sense for me to idolize, oh, I took this chance, when really you have to believe stuff is possible. And if you don't believe it's possible, you have to convince yourself it's possible.
Also, another point is, like, with technology nowadays, you can be anywhere in the world making money. Like, as long as you have that grit and ingenuity to find ways to do it, like, you just need a computer and an internet connection, and then just to get creative, man. You can be sitting next to a beach working off your computer, and then making money and not paying as much in rent, right? And having more freedom and opportunity, so definitely interesting perspectives coming from both sides, right? From living in the U.S. to going to another
I feel
country.
like otherwise it's like too many people in the U.S. They're blinded by their material and sort of they don't have the simple things in life that we need to be happy, so they're endlessly unhappy, and no amount of material will make up for not having eye contact with people you love. Like, you need that fundamentally as a human, you know, but you won't like get told that, you know.
Yeah,
It's like really, really tragic. And even for me as a person, like, I feel like I've made it pretty clear what I value in my life, and I'm happy with my decisions, but they've come at a great cost. I've had to make a great deal of sacrifices in relationships, not like romantic relationships, but just in my own family and in friends, because you essentially invalidate other people's paths by choosing to be happy and live a life
yeah,
that is good for you. And
that's true.
it's
That's a good point.
important to just understand how lost most people really, really are, and that most people you think are quite happy. If you think they're happy because of things they have, they probably aren't that happy. You know someone's happy when you interact with them.
Yep,
You
yep.
feel it. You know, you feel that joy, you feel that connection. And those are the people that really, in my head, that they're living life properly. If you can connect with them and
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. And let me tell you, like taking that leap though, going from the U.S. to Nicaragua was difficult because you also like family, like they don't see like that kind of opportunity, like, oh,
yeah,
going to go live at a different country, so it's an opportunity of like being able to live at a different like cost of living, different pace, different lifestyle, and they don't see that. So like breaking that barrier, that mental wall where you're like, you know what, fuck it, like I'm gonna go for it, like I'm gonna go do it because this is what's gonna make me happy, and at least I need to experience this, right? What's the worst case scenario is that you go, you don't like it, and you end up back in the same position where you started, and then you're like, all right, at least I tried it, at least I went for something
yeah,
that like I wanted to experience in life, and I didn't sit around and just think about it all the time,
yeah.
I executed, so
The farm that you're rebuilding, was that in your family's land that's been there, or did you purchase it recently? Can you tell me more about that?
yeah. So actually, that I inherited that piece of land from my father when he passed away around like 5 years ago.
Okay.
uh, and I'm working on rebuilding it into a coffee farm.
But
It was
now,
before. It was before, but it was abandoned, and there's a big disease that the coffee leaf rust that came through Central America and just in the coffee industry and wiped out a bunch of farms.
monoculture
Because
woes.
yeah, so basically that's when they got wiped out, and now I'm working on rebuilding it, planting coffee. But I'm starting to see that I'm rebuilding more than a farm. It's more like rebuilding a community. But then you realize that there's so much good you can do in Nicaragua. Like some of these guys don't really know how to like do a savings account, or like don't have savings, or how to budget, like simple stuff as that. And I'm starting to
Yeah.
think that I need to spend more time now in educating the people that come work with me, like somehow do classes or some type of videos programs I can put them on. But like, yeah, it's talking to those guys. I'm seeing that it's not only the farm that's growing, like it would be the people around.
Yeah, the community
And
too.
yeah, the community. And so
Out of curiosity, have you ever heard the name Geoff Lawton?
yeah, I heard of him. Yeah, I watched.
Uh,
Yeah, and actually I got a consultation call with him like 2 years ago.
what? Really? Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I set up one with him because I saw what he was doing, and I just loved what he was doing, and he's a very good teacher and stuff
He's
like
got
that. So
so much free content. It's amazing.
the way I look at it, it's agriculture, and then you apply design. So like you design for like your canopy, like your top canopy that's gonna
Yeah.
be
Like
shaped
a
for your
food
coffee, and like
forest.
yeah, and like how's your food forest gonna interact with your coffee, or how your trails that you design your walking path gonna help protect soil erosion. Like these are all questions that I'm asking myself based off what I've been watching on those YouTube
Yeah,
videos.
that's
And
awesome.
right now I'm living with my grandma, but eventually we'll buy some land and build a house and stuff like that. But I bought another lot on the side too, like a few years ago when I visited Nicaragua, because like you can also invest in real estate there, as long as you're choosing strategic points.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what it's been. And then on YouTube, it's like trying to find people like you now that I know you, and like people who are interested in this kind of stuff, to build a community online that we can work together to like just close that gap between people and coffee and just make the world better, you know. So it's like
That's awesome.
yeah, but it's a hard. I bet you know too, right? Like being on YouTube, like knowing your audience, right? It's difficult at first, and you have to kind of see who they are and like how can you make videos to.
A lot of YouTubers get obsessed with subscribers, but it's a lot like earning money. You become unsatisfied with the amount that you have, and you want more. Basically,
That's true. Yeah.
So
You're never satisfied with the amount you have.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, YouTube is more. It's like a mental health thing for me. If I'm
Mhm.
if I'm making YouTube videos, I will be happy. It doesn't matter what is happening in my life. If
Yeah.
I'm creating content in some way, especially like stuff like this, because the effect that conversations like this have on me in the future is huge. Most of my life has been built out of information I've learned from habitually doing calls like this for 5 or 6 years. You just
Yeah.
you get to see like how the illusions in your head are just wrong, and people are doing stuff. There are people who like believe in the same things you believe in, no matter how lonely you think you are, or how alone, or how judged. There's always other people out there experiencing the same thing, you know. And it's like to be able to connect with that and do it in a way where other people can watch and engage with it. It's beautiful, and it really helps dissolve kind of feelings of depression and these kind of things. If I'm not making YouTube videos, I'm not putting myself out there and making content, I get pretty depressed. Like, not gonna lie, even in the points in my life where I've had everything, where like I don't need to figure anything out, I felt empty if I wasn't doing something I cared about. That's all that really
Yeah.
mattered, you know. So for me, that's how I look at YouTube. Is like how can I make networking products? How can I make these videos that have an impact on me and the people who watch them? And that really is the focus. I don't focus so much anymore on like trying to get as many views as possible, or even like putting the video in the right place. Not that those things aren't bad. It's just that like YouTube works really well as a catalyst. So it's like you have a goal and a thing and a project you're doing, and you use YouTube as part of that. That's beautiful. It can work really well. But if you get lost in just focusing on the YouTube part and trying to make a career out of YouTube, it ends up being the same thing you try and escape. And
Yeah.
I've met full-time YouTubers and don't want to live their lives. Like, I mean, it's just the same thing you left, except you're your boss, which is good. But if you can't spend more time with your kids or the person you love than your job, for me, you have a low quality of life. It doesn't matter what material, how comfortable your bed is, what car you have. If you have to spend more time working than with the people you love, it doesn't matter. You're wasting your life. And that's harsh, but it's just how I feel. And this life is short, you know. It's definitely, you don't really want to fuck around.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's all about a balance, right? Striking that balance with all that. But man, yeah, interesting stuff, man. I think just shifting life in general, right, and taking that leap of faith, right? It's where it puts you in, putting your work out there, like saying like you need to do YouTube to feel like good and push out value. You know, it's the same boat for me too. So.
Yeah, I get
Some
that
good
vibe
stuff.
from you, and the way I learned about you was great. The guy who recommended you is super genuine, and
Oh,
he liked what you were doing. He really did.
oh,
He talked about
that's
it for
like
a
super
while.
awesome to hear, man. I was shocked when you told me, because it's like sometimes you feel like you put out content, but like you don't know who's watching. You know.
Yeah. Interact with people in your audience whenever possible, because it really amplifies that effect I was talking about. That like
Yeah.
your brain starts to be like, wait, okay, so if I have 100 subscribers and I just talked to one of them and they had a face, that means there's 100 other people have faces and they're people too. Whoa. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, man.
so say that people want to reach out to you or get in touch with you. How should they do that?
So there's a couple ways. Instagram, right? I'm at Immense Logic on Instagram. They can DM me there, send me a message. But also on my YouTube page, if you go to About Me, there's an email address down there. You could send me an email to that address down there. And we can chat. I'm always open to talk to people and share information. I mean, that's what I'm about. I'm soon going to be starting a coffee movement, so hopefully like a website where we can start like sharing stories and selling coffee, so we can start getting funds to fund the mission of like doing good around the community, you know. And at the same time giving back to, like, for example, there's like a school near my farm where like they need water and stuff like that, like just basic stuff that we can give back to them, you know. But that's coming soon. So yeah, those are the best routes to reach out to me there.
Bye, everybody.
All right, thank you. All right, see you later.
And if you're interested in consultations, I offer them for $20 per 30-minute session. We can talk about a wide variety of different subjects. I can teach you something that you know that I know, or I can give you some criticisms or critiques about any kind of idea or process that you're trying to implement. Let me know and reach out. You can access the calls by going to calendly.com/JackDermotPitman or using the top link of the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Oh.